Welcome back. Well, time for our business news. Joined now by our business reporter, Kopano Gumbi. Kopano, good afternoon to you. We keep talking about CPI. They use a basket of goods to measure inflation. They're changing their basket.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. The Stats South Africa coming out today to say that they're adjusting the CPI basket. Now, CPI is a very important measure in South Africa. Not only does it measure our inflation, but it's also a nice measure of the cost of goods in the country. And so it helps to gauge how people are spending their money and where they're spending it and how expensive it is for them to live. Interesting new developments that have been added to the basket. Every few years, those items are added to the basket. This year, we have 14 new additions, taking the total number of things that Stats takes into consideration for our CPI to 415. Patrick Kelly is the Chief Director of Price at Stats SA, and this is what he had to say about the new additions.
So the items that are coming in are dairy fruit juice blends, which we have had previously in the basket, cappuccino or coffee sachets, samp, which also had previously been in the basket, pureed baby food, and jam. So these are ones that we will be monitoring going forward and collecting prices for. We've combined two types of maize meal. So for the last number of years, we've had separate indices for super maize meal and special maize meal. So special maize meal is not that available, typically purchased in the KZN area. Quite a lot of operational difficulties getting consistent pricing for that. So those will be combined into one elementary index. In the alcoholic beverages category, we'll be introducing gin. This is something that has had quite a resurgence over the last number of years. In household maintenance, we'll be pricing floor and wall tiles.
Kopano, I have absolutely no view on whether gin should or should not be measured in terms of the price basket, but it's nice to see jam have its rightful place. No views yet on whether it's apricot or strawberry. We're going to have to wait to find out. I see tiles and renovations being added. There's results from Itatile as well. It's seen some growth.
No, absolutely, Stephen. Itatile telling us that they've had a fantastic season. And now we saw this, in fact, at the start of the pandemic or the lockdowns in 2020, where many people were spending so much more time in their homes that they ended up renovating. And Itatile, CTM, as well as Builders Warehouse, a lot of these other home renovation businesses saw their profits skyrocket at that time where others had suffered. But for Itatile, on the positive side, that is not decreasing for them. They're saying now that they're still seeing positive growth in their sales and their revenue, despite everything that's been going on in the economy. And if the latest CPI data is anything to go by, having added tiles and renovations into the basket, clearly they're in for a much longer season of goodwill. This is what our analyst Rilla had to say about that.
It was a good result overall. They're expecting their earnings to grow between 7 and 10% for their 6-month performance. Remembering that this is off a very high base. Last year, the same time, Itatile, they're the owners of the Itatile brand and CTM, where people were these companies were benefiting from the work from home trend, people being stuck at home from lockdown, so people improving their homes. So last year, their earnings grew 30% off those trends. So to see earnings growth over and above that is really quite solid. But there is some sort of corporate transactions involved in that, which has lifted it, with underlying profit growth really looking more around inflation levels of about 4 to 5%.
Kopano, you wouldn't be from our business team if you come with some good news about gin and jam. You have some bad news about petrol.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Unfortunately, I have to be the bearer of bad news in this regard. And it's not necessarily at the business desk, but this instruction coming from the Department of Minerals and Energy just in that the petrol price is set to increase. Now, this is an increase of 53 cents for petrol on both grades, as well as a 79-cent increase on diesel. Some of the reasons that they're giving for this include the fact that there are ongoing global tensions between the Ukraine and Russia, and this has very much affected the oil production and oil cost. We've seen oil prices rise to around $90 per barrel, which is unheard of in the last 5 years. We haven't seen interest rates or Brent crude rates that high. And so now they're saying that given that, plus our dollar-rand exchange, the dollar has been quite bumpy, and we've seen the rand especially performing quite negatively against that, appreciating in value as ongoing global tensions reign. And locally in South Africa, we see, as we know, all of these inflations, food price inflations, the cost of diesel, which is very high and which we know that Eskom need a lot of to keep our lights on. So all of that has played a role, unfortunately, and now we're going to see this petrol price increasing on the positive side. It is not yet at the 20 Rand a litre mark, which was everybody's concern, but it is not good news to have the petrol price increasing, unfortunately, Stephen.
No, it isn't. Indeed, Kopano Gumbi, thank you. You can keep your good news with us, and you can take your bad news, and we'll see you later.